Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies strengthening your business while offering your talent to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hey, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network broadcast. We're also thankful for the Kingdom Warriors University, the Prepared Group, and other places that we're streaming right now, here to help you, here to connect with you. And today we're going to be talking about classy LinkedIn approaches to booking those appointments that you want. There's a lot of conversation, Christine, about, hey, let's start the year off by getting our calendars filled with qualified, warm appointments that will lead to something amazing, either some kind of business or power partnership, or maybe building out our team. And we want to give you some tools to be able to do that today. So,
and Timothy, I got to say, I love the fact that you pointed out classy. Classy is an important part of this process. We've all been there where our LinkedIn just gets bombarded with messages. You're like, oh my goodness, right? As soon as you let them have that connection, boom, you're like, oh, back up. You're scaring me now. Stop hard selling on me, right? So when you said classy, I'm like, oh, there you go. Now you got my attention. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's excited about that.
Yeah, no spam allowed. Well, yes, good point, Christine. And let's bring up some visuals and just jump right into it, because we want to get you right to your appointments. We want to get your business or your organization really popping with these valuable appointments. So let's get into it. I'm the founder and CEO of Giver Marketing Network, and here to help you with LinkedIn, that classy approach to it's a strategy. It's a follow-up strategy, ladies and gentlemen. It's something that if you dedicate about an hour a week, you'll be able to get started and get going and start seeing the results very quickly. Something to mention, something to kind of keep in mind is this is part of a larger strategy and kind of a mindset as you approach marketing. And it includes a little bit of branding, visibility, promotion, and nurturing, but by leveraging the LinkedIn platform. Okay, so you're going to see little hints, little nods, if you will, to each one of these aspects of marketing. And if you don't have all of these kind of working together, think of them like a 4-cylinder engine, like they're working together. Otherwise, you're going to have some gaps. You're going to have some issues. You're going to have some misfires, if you will, to use that same analogy. So keep that in mind as we jump in. You're going to have a bit of a taste of kind of a presentation today, but just know when we get into one-on-one conversations, usually Christine, myself, Joel, Tim Solmonson, others will take more of a coaching approach. We'll ask you a lot of questions. What is your goals? Do you really want more appointments? Can you handle more appointments? What kind of appointments do you want? Do you want just any appointments? Do you want specific, what are your goals in relation to this conversation? And so we want to kind of get your heart and mind ready for that. Our tribe is the most trusted network of marketing specialists on the planet. You see a couple of us here. There's others. We have nearly 100 members at the time of this recording. Our goal is to reach 1,000 and become this marketing movement of mavericks running around, working on projects together that are doing good in the world. And that is a little bit about us. We are the highest reviewed. So if you look us up, Giver Marketing Network, you'll see a bunch of kind words online. I appreciate those who have done that. Here's a couple of examples. So what I'm about to share with you is this is some examples of direct responses in relation to this training. Okay. We're talking about $40,000 worth of opportunities. We're talking about 40 new appointments. If that sounds like something you want, then pay close attention, because we're about to unlock one of the most simple and powerful and classy approaches to building your business very quickly. Especially if you're in the business to business space. If you're talking to other businesses or organizations, this is a really good way to do that. All right. So our core values are collaboration, results, efficiency, attitude, transparency, and high levels of energy. I heard one person say yesterday, you need to mention that you elevate people. I'm like, okay, I don't know if we can fit another E in. Maybe we'll replace it at some point, but this is where we play. This is how we do what we do. Okay. So these are the things that we try to bring to the table every time we're here, either live with you now or in one-on-one sessions, or when we bring our team to execute for you, whatever the case may be. If you're a marketing professional, this is how we roll. This is how we ride. So if you want to jump into the network, just know this is kind of our style. Okay. Who benefits from this live online marketing masterclass type presentation? It's you. It's you, because you're hungry to grow. You're coachable. You're passionate. You might have some answers, but you don't have all the answers. You're trying to learn. You're a lifelong learner. This is where we want to jump in, give you some good information. Love to help you apply this. This is very easy to apply if you dedicate yourself for a certain amount of time, say on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'll circle back to that in a minute. But hey, we want to give a shout out to the original gangster of follow-up and classy follow-up, which is Bob Berg. Okay. The Go-Giver. Highly recommend that book. It's basically a way to connect, be a super connector without being spammy. All right. And so that book was a big influence on even the name of our company. So we want to thank Bob and the team for producing some of those great kind of classic works. Millions and millions of those books have been sold in multiple languages. Highly recommend picking that up maybe once a year and just refreshing yourself. It's a story. It's fun. I think they're even making movies about it and different things like that. Okay. All right. What is marketing, ladies and gentlemen? Let's make sure that we're talking about the same things, because Christine, you and I know we have a lot of conversations with various business owners, nonprofit leaders, community leaders, people with a personal brand kind of rising to the occasion as they're public speaking and doing different things. And oftentimes the conversation will go to, well, I don't do any marketing. I just stay active on social media. I get a lot of referrals. I ask for a lot of referrals. I do public speaking. I go live. I do this. And I'm like, well, everything you just said is marketing. So I don't, like, sometimes it gets a little confusing because we think of marketing as paid ads or a billboard somewhere if you're in kind of a legacy business, or Facebook ads or Google ads, some kind of paid ad scenario. That is a piece of marketing that's actually under the promotion banner. But there is so much more that sets those kind of advertisements up for success. Without branding visibility, your promotion probably won't produce the results you want. And we have some experts going to be jumping in the room in just a minute that can speak to that later, but we're going to hyper focus on, let's go right to the appointments. Let's use the platforms we already have and be good stewards of the people we have within our easy connectedness to be able to follow up. So marketing gets you to the red zone. Sales gets you to the end zone. We're not going to train you on sales today. You know your business. You're confident in what you're offering. You have a product or service that is amazing. So you can bring a level of classiness to your sales conversations. We just want to get you to the sales appointment. We want to get you to the meetings. And quite frankly, usually in higher ticket items, there's two meetings. There's the discovery call, and then there's the decision meetings. And we can talk about that a little bit later. Prospecting is technically marketing, not sales. So we're talking about prospecting here with a really healthy approach, right? So Marketing is conversations, appointments, clicks, traffic. These are the metrics that we often will track with our clients. Sales, we want to know about that so we can reverse engineer it. We want to know what's working. We want to be in alignment. A lot of people will say, well, let's run this by our biz dev person or our chief revenue officer. Okay, great, because we need marketing and sales to match. But what we're talking about today is pure, kind of on the pure end of the marketing funnel, which is at the top there on the screen. All right, so once we get those appointments for you, you got to put it in. We can drive you all the way to the green, but you got to be able to put that in. We know you can do it. We're here to encourage you on that, but we're really clear what our role is. It's the very tail end of that marketing piece that we're going to be covering today as it relates to a particular platform, which is LinkedIn. Okay, so how do we engage with our prospects? Continue to have those intentional conversations without annoying the out of people. Like, how do we do this without being rude, right? Christine, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, that's huge, right? We don't want to be that annoying person, right? As soon as you friend them, then you turn around and block them. I mean, it's been known to happen, right? So you want to have those real conversations. Do not be spammy. That is the number one rule in this. Do not be the spam person.
Do it right. Do it healthy. Treat these folks like you're going to be connecting with them over the next 5-10 years. Okay, let's be real, especially if you have a business that you feel like is going to be around for 5 to 10 years. You want to do it. You kind of take that approach. Good point, Christine. Thank you. Let's quickly review the last part of the blueprint. It's basically branding, visibility, promotion, nurturing. Nurturing is the last piece. This is where the gold is. If 1 to 3% of people are ready to buy now, then maybe 10 to 15% might be ready to buy at some point. So you can 5x, minimum 5x your revenue by just following basic nurturing principles. We're going to have Joel Snyder on in here in just a few minutes. A few others might have some thoughts on just follow-up 101 for a business. I don't know how many businesses that I come across where some are really great at follow-up and they tend to be generating a lot of revenue. And then others, it seems like everything falls through the cracks. They grab one client and then everything else falls through the cracks. And so this is what we want to help you kind of create a system so you're not letting all that hard work go to waste. Okay, so 80% of sales or those decision appointments occur after a minimum of 5 trust building interactions. Put the number 5 in the chat box, in the comments, wherever you are watching this live or recorded. Put the number 5 in the comments so that we can all know that you're paying close attention, because this is expectations that are in the marketplace. Some say it's more than this, just to be on the baseline, but 5 at very minimum to everybody you connect with that you want to work with. Everybody you connect with, you want to work with, needs 5 little touches, 5 classy little, like a high five. Think of it like a high five. You just want to be able to have a conversation with them in a way that seems very, very authentic, and it should be. You really want to help them. If you really have a solution to their pain or problem, then you're in business. Let's go, right? All right, here's some suggestions. If you want to connect with folks, here's 7 ways to what would that be, a high 7? Here's a high 7 for you. But listen, take at least 4 or 5 of these and incorporate them into your routine, your habits, your follow-up and habits. Some of these you already do. So let's count them. Let's count the wins, right? We have the small wins. So if you already have a brief email you send out to folks that you connect with after a networking meeting, either online or in person, or you've had an introduction and then you follow up with an email, that's 1 touch. As long as it's not a novel and you're trying to sell them something in the email and spam them to death with 14 emails over the next 14 days, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about just a personal email saying, thank you for connecting with me at such and such event. Like, this is very different.
That's huge. Huge, Timothy, right? Don't write him a novel. I was just working with a client yesterday where I was like, oh no, that's a little bit long. Let's truncate that. Let's take those 20 words and put it into 3, right? So keep it short, keep it simple. You're starting to build the relationship. Don't make them run away right away.
Especially if the goal is appointments. You actually do. It's counterproductive the more words you put in an email if your goal is appointments. Now, if you're trying to sell a $50 thing or a $20 thing or a lower ticket item, just as kind of a tripwire into other products, go talk to somebody else. Go talk to Frank Kern. Go talk to other people that kind of have mastered that. It's a bit of a legacy strategy, but you can do it. And that's a totally different approach. This is more relational. It's more emotionally intelligent. It's less salesy and more like for higher ticket. Like if you have a product or a service that's, $500 or more, up to, $5, $10, $20,000. This is what you want to do to make some of the big boy and girl money. Okay. This is where it's at. And there's a bunch of others that are listed there. You can rewind that and take a look at that in a minute. Move at the speed of trust. You must ask for the sale at some point. Let's not forget that. Okay. We're not anti-sales. We're just pro-marketing. Okay. So we want to set the stage for the sale so that you're not coming in going, buy my thing. No. Hey, we've been having a conversation for a while. I know your needs, your pain points. We've had good, we align. We've swapped stories even. We understand we want to work together. Can I help you solve this problem in this way? Yeah, that's the ask. Okay, so you got to ask for the sale at some point, but we're going to set you up for multiple conversations that are going to lead into those decision meetings, we call them, or sales appointments. All right, so we have about 1 billion users now on LinkedIn, up over 70% since being acquired by Microsoft a while back. #1 business-to-business channel for marketers. 80% of business-to-business leads come from LinkedIn versus Twitter, aka X, Facebook, kind of this top 3 or 4 social channels. You're going to see most of the business-to-business leads come from LinkedIn, whereas the B2C leads come from other places generally. Okay, average income of a LinkedIn user is nearly triple of Facebook. 41% of millionaires are on the platform, and open rate is generally about double that of a typical email campaign. Quick note, email with LinkedIn, the open rate goes through the roof. But email alone, industry average usually, right? Somewhere in there. But if you pop a note on LinkedIn, then follow up with an email, especially if you do it right and with the right timing. Hey, I sent you a note. Want to make sure we can stay connected on email as well. That kind of a language, that makes sense. But just blasting.
Don't do spammy email follow-up. No spammy email follow-ups.
No, don't. None of this. None of this. Come to my event. I don't even know who you are. Like, buy my thing. Purchase this ticket. None of that stuff without some kind of context or at least some kind of other complementary reach out strategy. And we feel like this outbound LinkedIn approach is really powerful. And some might be asking, what about inbound? What about posting on social media? Well, we might have a few minutes to talk about that. But listen, if you don't have appointments, you don't have a business. So let's get you to some appointments, and then you can complement that with your social media posting strategy, and it all works together. Throw an email in there, and then before you know it, you're going to have so much business coming in. You're going to have to build out a team, which, by the way, LinkedIn's a great place to build out a team. All right, so you can have thousands of viewers every 90 days, depending on how active you want to get. I mean, look at this chart. This is just from going non-active to, I think I'm going to get active on LinkedIn. And sure enough, you go from, a couple hundred views over the course of 90 days to over 1,000. Like, you can do that, ladies and gentlemen, depending on how many connections you have, you can do even more. Okay. So we want to get your eyeballs. I mean, how much is an ad worth that has 1,000 eyeballs on it that are on a platform that you have some authority and credibility on? You're looking sharp, and people are the ones actually initiating coming to you. Like, maybe Joel can answer that in a few minutes. Like, what is that worth to have 1,000 eyeballs on your stuff every 90 days where they're actually kind of interested in potentially connecting with you. I mean, I could give a guess, but I'd rather leave that to others. Okay. What to expect? Hundreds of connections, more booked appointments. Let's limit our cold calling, Christine. Like let's I mean, there's nothing wrong with cold calling. It's not the best use of time for everybody all the time. So it's one of those things where there are places for it. Like you pick your spots. Like, hey, I need to call that person because I really feel they'd be a good fit. We don't have a lot of context. I'll go ahead and just call them directly or text them or something because I saw them at an event on stage or something. Like, I guess that's fine, but ultimately you want to soften up that conversation in a different way if you can. So we're going to try to help you do that. Okay. Whether it's you want more clients, customers, team members, power partners, preferred vendors, the list goes on. If you want some quality connections that end up on your calendar, this is what you want to do. Okay. All right. So what's the typical results? 10 to 20 warm phone or Zoom appointments monthly. Different folks prefer different types of discovery calls. Zoom or Meet or Google Meet or some of these other video-based platforms, Microsoft Teams, like some of these other different platforms tend to have different ways to interact with folks on video, and that's fine. I still do the phone call just to see if we're a good fit for 10 minutes, but other people tend to just jump right in depending on your availability on your calendar as well. Here's the bottom line. No matter what you choose, an average of 5 to 10% of connections that you currently have, first degree connections, people in your circle of influence, will book a call using the messaging sequence you're about to see. Okay. It's like clockwork. It just works. Unless you've spammed your list recently. This is the metrics. This is the results to expect. Okay. Your calendar will light up. We stumbled onto this by accident. Our intern was in the office one day, and we were asking them to send out some messages because we didn't have a lot of other things for them to do, and we hadn't played with LinkedIn. Like, I was a Facebook guy, and so I'm like, hey, we're pretty active on Facebook, but can you try LinkedIn? 200 appointments later, I'm like, oh snap! Like, what was I doing? Like, and we didn't even know what we were doing at that time. Then I got into some of the deeper pieces. So the answer to the question of can I kind of start this myself? Yes. The answer is yes. We had an intern start this. Okay. We just had one phrase, and I'll show you the phrase in a minute. It's not worth sending annoying pitch messages, to Christine's point. Especially if you have a large list that's going to come in, there's a tendency or a temptation to just blast everybody and try to grab, 5 appointments out of a 5,000 person list. We don't want to burn 9 bridges for every one we make. That is not a good business strategy, ladies and gentlemen. If you find people getting a little bit annoyed at your messaging, some will say, well, that's just part of business. I'm like, there's a better way. There's a better way. Talk to Christine, talk to, myself, others on the Giver Marketing Network. We tend to play a different way. It's more of a long-term game. And gosh, whether you end up selling your business, keeping your business, opening up multiple offices of your business, you'll never regret going the classy approach. All right. So no ad spend, no spam necessary. Now, I will say you can add layers of ads on this later once it's working, but we never encourage spam. Have you got that by now in conversation? Okay, good. All right, so what do you need to get started? Let's get into the meat and potatoes, Christine. You need a LinkedIn account. And some people will say, do you need a paid account? Not necessarily. It certainly could help increase some of your volume because LinkedIn will throttle you back every once in a while. But without getting too complicated and into the weeds, you don't need a paid account right away. Just start and experiment with either the free account, or some people already have premium. You can just play that way. Okay. And you need an online scheduler. If you're one of those folks that are like, I don't use online schedulers, I'll never use online schedulers, I think they're just not my style, then stop right now and go watch something else, because this is based on the idea that you can be efficient with booking your appointments, but still classy. Okay. And if you're interested in you're on the fence about it, just keep watching and you'll see that there is a way to use online schedulers without throwing them at people's faces all day long. Okay. There's a way to do this that doesn't feel weird. Okay. All right. A lot of people ask for this slide right here. So if that's you, reach out to Christine, myself. We'll get you, or shoot, just pause this and kind of take a screenshot yourself, right? But this right here is gold. Some people charge $500,000 just to walk you through this. And they should, because it's actually very powerful. This is your landing branding page, okay, for you. We're not talking about a business page right now. We're talking about you as the leader or the executive director or the CEO or the president or the decision maker in your company or organization, okay? This is your personal page on LinkedIn as it relates to the work you do, okay? So we want to go ahead and just encourage you to have a human element in the cover, have a headline that makes sense and answers questions or at least addresses the problem you're solving, giving some kind of benefit you deliver. In the about section, try to tell your story a little bit. You can have lists and bullets down below that say what your superpowers are, but try to pepper them into a story. Tim Solmonson might have a few words to say about that in a minute. But ultimately, a story is 10 times more memorable. Some say 100 times more memorable than just having some bullet points. Okay, so we want to have maybe a mix of both. All right. Your media, any kind of video that kind of shares your personality, what your focus is, what problem you're solving, maybe a case study, a testimony, or even just sharing from your heart, maybe a video version of your story. That's super powerful. Experience needs to be relevant. Don't leave stuff there from like 30 years ago that has zero to do with what you're doing now, unless you feel like it's going to enhance or inform your style. If it's, I can't give an example right now off the top of my head, but there's some, you've seen the profiles where you're like, this person, they say serial entrepreneur up top, but they're actually a confused entrepreneur. Like they don't know what their superpowers are. They don't know what they're good at. You ask them who they want to work with. They say everybody. Like it's just you can tell when people are scattered and all over the place, sometimes by their resume. So listen, if you've been bitten by the entrepreneur bug from a young age and you're experimenting for a 5 or 10 year chunk, you might want to trim back a few of those things and keep the more relevant current ones so that people feel more confident in working with you. There was some gold in that phrase, that little section right there, Christine. We don't have time to go all into it, but that was a little bit of macro like business advice. Just a freebie, a little bonus there. Okay, all right. So here we go. Your calendar needs to have some kind of short meeting set up on your scheduler, your little Calendly, or some people use different. There's so many different ones that are popping up now. You can use HubSpot, Book Like a Boss. It doesn't matter. Like as long as you have a scheduler, Calendly is an easy one to kind of just play with because you can set up one appointment type for free. So ultimately, you want to have a 10, maybe 15 or 20 minute initial discovery call or Zoom chat so that you can just get to know somebody on the real, like swap stories, ask a few questions, set up a follow-up. Rarely do we want to go beyond 20 minutes in that first meeting, especially if you have a high ticket item, because what you'll end up doing is you'll end up showcasing the fact that you don't value their time or your time by spending way too much time with somebody on a first meeting. It's almost like a date. You don't want to spend way too much time on a first date. Like it just starts getting kind of smothery, kind of weird, kind of like you want to have a first date that's awesome. And then the second date, you really want to get into some real deeper conversation. You want to really have a good time connecting that way. So ultimately, we want to treat this like a first date. Okay. It's very short, sweet. And it really just helps to see if you're aligned and if you even want to have a second date. Okay. People are like, is this dating advice or like, what is this? No, it's human interaction 101. Okay. All right. So here's a little tip, little hint. Christine, we were mentioning like just connecting with people you're already connected with earlier. There's a little section that is kind of, it's not well known. It's kind of interesting. If you go to My Network, and then down in the lower left quadrant, it says Add Personal Contacts. You can pull in connections from a link, from an email platform or an email provider, like MailChimp, or excuse me, not MailChimp, but like any kind of Gmail, any kind of Yahoo address, any kind of even old school AOLs, any kind of email platform that you use. They can pull in your connections and find them on LinkedIn for you. And then you can just click, I want to connect with that person. And it's very easy to get, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of first degree connections on LinkedIn. And there's a magic number, which is 500, that makes you look like a boss when you're on LinkedIn. Okay. So we want to make sure you're beyond that 500 number. That's a first goal for you. If you're not at 500 yet, make sure and get to 500 using this little tool right here that's built into LinkedIn. And we're going to talk about other little resources that are available on LinkedIn in a few minutes as well. Permission marketing is the actual philosophy, the approach we're taking on LinkedIn right now. You can find this in your library. You can find this free online. You can find this, it's a bestseller. You can pick it up on Amazon, eBay, like wherever. Like this book is everywhere. I found it in my digital library, an audiobook yesterday. Like this book is everywhere. So it's like the classy way to reach out, to communicate, to market your services. It's an amazing, or products. It's an amazing resource. Okay. There's some dated references in that book because it's not a new book, but it's an amazing book. So, all right. So we used the dating analogy already. Dating versus proposing is like marketing versus sales. Okay. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Okay. So long form messaging is a no-no unless there's a very specific reason to do so. And we know it's going to work and we're testing it with small group. And then we can implement that into our strategy. But until otherwise notified, ladies and gentlemen, long form messaging is a no-no for this particular strategy and platform, especially on LinkedIn. We got busy professionals that are generating millions and millions of dollars in revenue. We're not going to sit here and win them over with a novel. It's just not going to happen. Okay. So, I mean, unless they literally ask you, like, to give me the whole enchilada, then you can give it to them. But without permission, do not go long form. Okay. All right. So first degree connections is what we recommend. And some folks are like, I need new appointments. I need new connections. I need new this. Give me more leads. I'm like, okay, give me more cowbell. Like, I don't like that is not always what a business needs initially. Yeah, we need a healthy flow of leads coming in or connections coming in. But what about the ones you made 4 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago? Like, what are you doing with those? That's where the gold is, ladies and gentlemen. So first degree connections, we start there. Whether you have 500, 5,000, or 30,000. First degree connections, you can go through on LinkedIn and you can search through who you want to connect with. And that's the key with LinkedIn. It has the ability for you to discern and search and be smart about who you want to connect with. Whereas many of the other platforms, it's a blah. It's kind of an inbound strategy, right? Post, comment, hope that the right people come to you, it's a great strategy, and you can do it on LinkedIn as well. But the back end of LinkedIn is insanely powerful because of the fact that you can go to your current existing connections, type in a couple of keywords, and then you can have all the CEOs of production companies. You can have real estate professionals all listed for you right in a row. And you just go in and just whatever industry, whatever keywords, whatever role, whatever, you can have all sorts of kind of filters built into even the free version of LinkedIn. You can do it if you get really nerdy about it. Okay. So first degree connections, don't worry about getting too many of those because you have up to 30,000 you can have. So do not be bashful Even if you're an introvert, just be bold, be courageous. We can always disconnect from them later if they're rude or weird. Okay. So just get them in your first degree bucket of awesomeness. Okay. Some people are like, what is first degree? It sounds like a karate class or something. I don't know what this is. It's the people that you're connected to personally, and they've already said yes to you, and they're in your circle of connections on LinkedIn. And there's a way to view each other's profile and those kind of things. Okay. All right. So what was that message that the intern sent to everybody to get all those appointments? Here it is. It still works to this day. It's years later. It's authentic. It's short and sweet, and it ends with a question. It's authentic, short and sweet, and it has a question mark. Write that down, ladies and gentlemen, in the comments. It's authentic, it's short, it ends with a question. Those three things, if you just follow those three principles in your messaging, you will have massive success compared to someone who's spamming everybody. It's been a while since we connected. Are you open to a quick call in the next couple of weeks? The reason we use this language is because the word connected is LinkedIn language. LinkedIn doesn't have friends. They have connections. Facebook has friends. LinkedIn has connections. Okay, that's an equivalent. It's been a while since we connected. That can mean two different things. It's been a while since we met on that event a few weeks ago, or it's been a while since we connected here on LinkedIn. So it covers 99% of everybody by phrasing it this way. Are you open to a quick call in the next couple of weeks? Well, you might be going on vacation. Like I'm going on an anniversary trip here pretty soon. Sometimes your calendar gets a little booked out. Sometimes calendars don't line up with each other, maybe time zone differences, different things like this. So give yourself a week or two to give them some options, give them realistic expectations. What we don't want to do is going, can you meet tomorrow at this time? And then don't give them a scheduler, like no other options. You sound very desperate. Like your calendar is not full. There's not, you don't want to sound desperate, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a good business strategy. Okay. I've never seen a training that says desperation, your new business strategy. Like that's not what, right, Christine? Like that's not. Okay. All right. She's giving me the thumbs up on that one. Okay. So
yeah.
You like okay. All right. So messaging itself is kind of an art in LinkedIn. I know Christine, you and I were talking about this earlier. We've had conversations, and actually right now I want to just bring in some of our team members and bring them on stage if that's a good time, because we're getting into the weeds here, and I want to make sure we have a couple of other voices. And if there's any background noise, Christine, you can mute, or we can all just mute ourselves right now, and then I can bring you on in just a minute. Okay, good. All right. So when it comes to messaging, your inbox will light up when you start doing this. Okay. It's a matter of what they're saying is really the more of the question. Okay. You will get a 20 to 30% response over time with those initial messages. Okay. Think about that. That's like double a typical email campaign, maybe more, because we're talking about actual responses, not just open rates. Okay. We're talking about actual responses. So you're going to get a nice heavy amount of responses. Some are going to say, hey, hit me up next month. Some are going to say, sure, sounds good. Some are going to say, leave me alone. That's totally fine. Like, at least we got an idea of, and it's very rare people say, leave me alone with that message, by the way. Cool. All right. So we got mutual benefit message. When people ask you why you want to reconnect or set up an appointment or meet or chat or whatever language you use, do not tell them what you're selling. This is not time to sell. It's not time yet. It's like, you don't go in for the kiss. It's not the time yet. Okay. And a lot of people are weirded out by this analogy. It helps people remember. Okay. We're just trying to set up the first date Or if you haven't gone on a date in a while, you're trying to kind of reset with that, that date again. Okay. It's been a while, right? So mutual benefit language is powerful, authentic, it's real. Every business, write this down, ladies and gentlemen, put it in the comments. Every business is looking for a two-way street. You're exchanging value, high value, hopefully, but you're exchanging value. There's no charity, there's no manipulation, there's no weird one-way street dynamic going on here. I can't think of a business where they're extremely successful and they're a one-way street where they're forcing you to do something. Okay, so all these tactics about let's force people to buy from you. No. There needs to be a match of value for long-term repeat business from clients and customers and power partners and others. So mutual benefit is actually what every business is in the business of doing. Mutual benefit is the key to healthy business. You can quote me on that. That is a really important principle. So if you use mutual benefit language, you're always being truthful. It's a first principle of business. So you can always say, hey, just wanted to swap stories with each other, find possible mutual benefit. You can say any version of a mutual benefit language with a question at the end, and you're good. People are like, oh, that's too simple. Yeah, let's keep it simple. Let's use the KISS method, okay? Keep it simple, silly. Let's go. All right, so what's the actual appointment setting message? The actual appointment setting message is something like, sounds great, grab a time here, sounds great, so we don't play phone tag. Depending on who your audience is, they might need a little bit more nudging here, but keep it really light. Put your scheduler in the middle of the sentence. Technically, it's like 2 sentences here, but put your scheduler in the middle of the little paragraph, okay? Short paragraph, 2 sentences. Put your name in the scheduler if at all possible. You'll get a higher conversion rate because you're actually people doing business with people. It's not a brand promoting our brand to you and then you promoting your brand. No, it's people doing business, people getting to know each other first. Then we're going to talk about our brand. So be careful not to lead with website / I'm going to pitch you to death.com, website / I'm going to pitch you to death as a scheduler. That's not, we don't want that to feel, even the term discovery call, even the term demo. This is not where you put your demo scheduler link. This is where you put your, I want to connect with you on the real short, quick story swapping call. And I use the term story swapping and possibilities a lot now in this message because that's really the goal. It's just to find alignment. It's not to sell anything yet. It's a pre-sale, but you're not technically selling or closing the deal generally. Maybe 1 out of 1,000. You can just, it's a good fit. They're ready. There's timing. Great. But in most cases, you're setting the stage for a trust level that is high. Okay. All right. So with that being said, we don't have time to go into the second part of this training. Well, you know what? I'll just give a quick flyover so people can take a look at it. If you want to use a name dropping strategy, this is where it gets real. You talk about second degree connections or friends of friends, connections of connections. That's what that means. Ask permission by one influencer. Some people call it centers of influence, people of influence, POIs, COIs, all these different acronyms. Anyway, find an influencer that's on LinkedIn that has a bunch of connections that you want to connect with and ask them if you can connect with their people and give them something of value, maybe some of your services or a thank you, or let them connect with your folks or do some kind of exchange with a center of influence on LinkedIn and start messaging those people while dropping the name of the influencer. If you do that, go to second degree, pop in the name of the influencer with their permission. I'm going to say it out loud one more time. with their permission. Do not do this without permission. I did that by accident one time because there was a miscommunication with one mentor of mine, and I'll never do it again because it wasn't worth it. Like I just took a shortcut. I didn't over communicate. I should have confirmed with them twice, and it just confirm that they are okay with you connecting with their people. Okay, very important. Add a note to your message. Just mention the influencer's name and use some similar language we talked about earlier. Hey, Joe Smith connected us. Would you have a few minutes to chat on the phone the next couple of weeks, or grab a quick Zoom in the next few weeks, or some version of that language there. And you can run this through AI, or you can play with wordsmith this with your team, or however you want to do it. But keep it short, end with a question, and you'll be good. Okay. All right. So let's stop there for the show and tell. Let's get into some conversation, ladies and gentlemen. I know we got a little bit of noise in the background, probably because of my microphone or something, but let's do the best we can with some dialogue back and forth here. When it comes to reaching out, I can tell you that this has produced thousands of appointments for me personally, tens of thousands for our team members. And there was even one gentleman who produced a software at about the same time we were developing this strategy, this super simple strategy, that they've sent over 5 million messages out in a fairly classy way. Like they've been able to send that many messages out in a way that's not like, whoa, like, what are you doing? You know, that kind of a thing. So we know this works in lower volume and higher volume. We know that it books appointments. I think last year with that name dropping strategy, and that combined with a referral strategy, I think I had about 300 referrals drop into my calendar just through the LinkedIn channel alone. And so we know it works. The question is that I have for kind of the team is anything that stood out to you, anything that complements what you're doing, anything jump out to you? Tim, Joel, Christine, if you want to unmute yourself and kind of jump in. And then Christine, I want to show a couple of those visuals that you had too. What do you got, Tim?
Yeah, I thought it was funny. You talked about marketing getting you in the red zone, sales to the end zone, but it's branding that gets you into the game. And I'm amazed at how many people forget about the importance of branding. So their banner, their photo, you know,
Yep.
it's you can see a part of a guy that's, you know, they're got their arm around that's kind of cut out over here, and just, I don't know, they just like their smile or something. But all the, you know, the branding piece is super important, and to have a catchy, hey, this is me and the problem that I solve. So many people just say, I'm a SEO expert. Well, who are you an expert for? You know, what kind of SEO do you do? All those things are super important to get any kind of traction or for anyone to pay any attention to you.
Yeah, how about I help you get found more easily so you can make more money? Like, I mean, just help people solve the problem or reach an aspiration that they already want to reach. Yeah, it's a great point, Tim. And that branding piece, I know that you're a brand evangelist. You have a book by the same name. And I just want to kind of honor your comment there, because without some of those basic elements, like you said, a profile picture where you can ask a buddy or someone on our team or anybody to go in and shoot. There's apps for that now where you just put your photo in there and it'll freshen it up for you, make sure it's clear and crisp, and it looks, you know, at least has some good lighting. It looks like it has some good lighting, and they can see your face. Your face is like a fingerprint. People need to recognize that is the fingerprint of your brand. So well said, Tim. And if you need any help with that, reach out to Tim Solmonson on LinkedIn. Look at his profile. Just follow some of what he's been doing, and you should be able to get a good start on at least looking sharp, coming dressed for success, ready to go. You don't need to go over the top. You don't need to wear a suit. You don't need to wear a tie unless you're in an industry that requires that. That's not necessary. It's just you just need to look classy and super and kind of on your A game. From a visual standpoint, you should be on your way, at least in the beginning pieces.
Let me
That
let me
story,
follow
too.
up on that.
Tim Solomon will help you with that story too. Don't forget about that with Tim Solomon. My goodness.
I'm going to follow up on what Tim's talking about, because the whole idea of having a profile that looks professional, right? So what happens is you want someone else to refer you, and we go to your profile and I'm like, oh, no, I can't do that yet. I literally have said that. We need to beef up your image a little bit. It's back to branding again. So if you want other people to take you seriously, like you're committed, you're in this business, you're actually, you're working hard, and you're a credible source, right? For me to refer you, you need to look professional. So, take a look and see, when's the last time you updated your profile. It's probably, sometimes for a lot of people, it's been a while. You're like, oh, that picture is about 50 years old, and right, get in there, update it.
Maybe one way to ask that, Christine, is how many appointments have you missed out on, and how many referrals have you missed out on because maybe you haven't taken 10 minutes to refresh a couple of things on your profile. I don't know what an appointment is worth for y'all, but it's not $10. I can tell you that. It's worth a lot more than that, especially a referral. We're talking about possibly worth thousands of dollars. So you want to definitely spend a few minutes with Tim or Christine or others to be able to kind of talk through some of these things. Joel, what do you got?
Well, I think what's fun is the strategies are great, but the foundations need to be in place. And that's kind of what you're alluding to with the branding is, it's a foundational piece that needs to be in place in order for the strategy to have its highest level of effectiveness.
Okay.
And so the other side of that is, do you have a process, right? So it's one thing to start, but how are you putting people into your network? Where are those names coming from? Are they good quality connections because you're involved in another group somewhere, right? So there's all kinds of questions around the quality of those connections as well. So I think it's important to really understand the foundational issues that relate to your ability to gain a qualified appointment. You got to work that equation backwards so that you know that the gas you're putting in the tank can fire off and provide a good result. So you get good mileage out of all of those connections. Right? It's easy to just go through and load up a bunch of connections that don't relate to your market. And then you start messaging them and it's like, what's the point? Right. So so again, just, to consider having a workflow, where I'm gaining my leads, how I'm getting them into my network, how I'm messaging them for a connection, what happens when we have an appointment, how do I onboard them if they decide they want to work with me, right? Those are very instrumental to really making and maximizing your return. Yeah,
well said. There's a major river that runs through this little town that I live in. And on one end of the river, a little stream goes into a pond that doesn't have a lot of life to it. And it actually gets toxic certain times of the year when you go fishing. And it's just not the right pond to fish in most of the time. It's just not a good idea if you don't, you want to make sure not to get sick, right? There's another lake basically that comes from that same source. It has a lot of life to it. There's an outflow. There's kind of a ecosystem that's playing really healthy in that. There's a lot of folks coming and going. There's just a lot of good things happening. I highly recommend listening to what Joel's saying here. And number one, fish in the right pond or lake. Number two, be aware of the system that you're going to be putting in place as these appointments start coming in. What is it? Let's assume they get higher and higher quality appointments along the way. What is it that you want to accomplish by the end of that meeting? Like the 10-minute call, what's the ask at the end of the 10-minute call if there is alignment? I can tell you what it is for me, but I can't tell you what that is for you. It might be a demo of your software. It might be a 30-minute deeper dive. It might be a session swap. It might be it depends on what you're doing, but it's definitely needs to be thought of before you have that call. What's the next step? And then how is the information of those people's names, emails, dates that you had their first appointment, some basic information, maybe their social profiles. How is that being popped into a CRM, which is a conversation for another day? And that's where Joel really plays well. We work with clients where we're generating millions of dollars worth of new revenue based on some of the things that, Joel and Tim and Christine are talking about here, just to enhance as we go along. We're not talking about perfection here, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about a little bit of progress in some of these areas so that 3 years from now, you're looking back saying, well, that was a little silly. I didn't take care of that earlier. But now that we're here and we're continuing to improve, it seems like better clients are coming our way. How does that work? That's super interesting. Like, that's how it works. People observe little things and they all come together. We're way smarter than AI. So when it all comes together and we see what we see, we make those decisions based on some of those data points. It's very, very important.
Yeah,
we might not have all the information in the world like an AI, but we have what we need right in front of us most of the time. Go ahead, Joel.
And then tracking the volume, right? Because LinkedIn has limits, daily limits on messaging. And also you're going to have more volume of leads and connection requests than you have time to follow up with on a manual or a once, sit down and do it all at once kind of basis. Mm-hmm. So part of the process should be, okay, this group gets this message, and then a week later, this group gets that message, but the first group gets this message, right? So you need to have all of this kind of process worked out so the right group is getting the right message in the right intervals, right?
Great point.
And then your sequence is leading them down that pathway to bring them closer and closer to you. So there's more to the story, and as you alluded to, Timothy, it's really important that you see the whole picture.
Yep, I think everybody can start with what we shared today, but once that engine is fired up, you need to talk to Joel Snyder or some of the team about what is step 3, 4, and 5 in this process to make sure we don't. We don't have a bunch of, what did you call it, Joel? Cold traffic dead ends. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
We don't want cul-de-sacs here where you have dead ends and you're not sure where to go and you get lost. Like, we want a systematic way to circle back in a classy, appropriate way and just keep circling back so that folks don't forget about us. We're in an era of, it's easy to forget the average Joe and Mary in business. You have to make sure that you're memorable through story, like Tim was talking, Tim talks about a lot. You have a system to make sure and circle back. How many times have we connected with folks and we talk to them maybe once or twice, and then they drop off of our follow-up sequence, manual or not, like they just drop off. We don't even know where to find their information sometimes, even if we wanted to. So the challenge here is get started reaching out to enough of the right people and then make sure that you can follow up with them appropriately. Christine, I know we're out of time for today, but can you bring up that one slide that you had that was talking about just some of the cool tools that LinkedIn's incorporating now since Microsoft jumped in the game and bought them, been able to beef them up a little bit. And there seems to be some really good pieces that they've included. Explain. It's on the left side of your profile, correct? Where you can click on some of the analytics and some of those kind of things. Is that right?
Yeah, it's on the left side. And when you click on that, it opens here and there's areas in the back end of LinkedIn that a lot of times people aren't aware even exist. If you haven't gone in and explored a little bit, maybe they're afraid they're going to break it. I don't know. But on the left side, when you have your feed, right, you see profile viewers, you see post impressions, and that's where you find these kind of goodies. And
Nice.
so you can find a little bit about, okay, well, how many people have been looking at what I've been posting, right? And I've got an increase at the moment, right? How many followers are you gaining in the process, right? And you're going to start seeing that start to build up as you start doing some of that outbound communication, right?
And right below this is just a way for it's all. If I remember right, you showed this to me earlier. Oh, there it is. Yeah, right at the
There it
bottom.
is.
What is that bottom part?
Right. So if you're not sure what to post, and some people are, when it gets to LinkedIn, they're like, I want to get more involved. I want to start posting. I don't even know where to start. LinkedIn actually will give you suggestions, and they'll say ideas for your next post. Right. This is right there in the analytics section. So it might give you some ideas based on what your industry is. And there's a little spot underneath this where you can pick like your top 5 areas that you want to talk, right? Areas that you want to focus on. And they give you suggestions on what to talk about in that area. So
I like it. So there's inbound and there's outbound. Okay, so outbound is basically what we talked about earlier, where we're reaching out to people we want to set appointments with. We're taking the initiative. Okay, outbound. Think outbound is you're taking the initiative, outreaching to them. Inbound is where you'll post some things that are super interesting, valuable, eye-catching, memorable, humorous even, or reposting other people's content, and it draws people into you like a magnet. So we want a little bit of both. Anybody who says you don't want both, they don't know what they're talking about. You want a little bit of both. You want both that initiative that you take to your audience or a list or maybe you're coming out of a virtual event or a summit or a challenge or something. You meet a bunch of folks, take a screenshot or do whatever you got to do to grab the list. And then you follow up those folks. Hey, it was great connecting with you at this event. Are you open to a quick call in the next few weeks? You'll get appointments doing that. Okay. So that's one side of the equation. That's when it's an outbound strategy, right? The inbound is where you're posting, you're getting some great content, like you're talking about, Christine, and then people start interacting, commenting, liking. Then you have a responsibility to follow up in that way as well. So there's a follow-up component here to both. One is more aimed at very, very specific people that you're targeting, and others is more magnetic, where it pulls in the right people, hopefully, depending on how you're doing it. So, hey, God bless you guys. Well, we're going to see you tomorrow. Christine, we have networking for marketers tomorrow. If you go to givermarketing.com/networking, right? And they'll see your face and a bunch of others. And if you're in the marketing space and you want to connect with other marketing professionals, learn more about the Giver Marketing Network, learn about some white labeling possibilities, power partners, generate more revenue for your company. That's what we're all about here. Is we want a movement of marketing professionals who are working together on projects that are changing the world for good. They're improving the world. They're keeping things positive. And so join us tomorrow at website/networking, givermarketing.com/networking. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon.